You're listening to the Quince podcast.
Top category in men's cricket, 7 crore rupees. Top category in women's cricket, 50 lakh rupees. Yes, MS Dhoni has been dropped from the BCCI's contract, and there's a lot to unpack there with the ambiguity surrounding his career going forward, and we'll be talking about all of that in today's big story. But in case you missed it, the same BCCI has announced the contract for the women's team as well for another year, and has awarded women cricketers in the top category a fraction of what men cricketers are getting. 7 crore rupees versus 50 lakh. I'm Vishnu Gopinath, and before I get our sports editor Mendra Dorje to make sense of the alarming gender pay gap, let me tell you that you can tune in to the Big Story podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, JioSaavn, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other popular platform. Now, if you're tuning in for the first time, The Big Story is the Quince Daily podcast, where we dissect the big news of the day. Now, back to the BCCI that released its central list of players for this season from 2019 October to September 2020. I'm joined today by the Quince sports editor, Mendra. Hi, Mendra.
Hi, Vishnu.
So, the pay disparity between the male and female cricketers didn't exactly make headlines, probably because it's not new. But there's always outrage over it, and rightly so. Mendra, what was your first reaction when you saw the difference in their pay packages again?
It's been the case for the last 2 years, this is the salary brackets that the women cricketers have been slotted into since 2018. In fact, 2015-16 was sort of the first time that, central contracts were even introduced for women cricketers. And the amount actually drastically increased under the COA in 2018. And this is the drastically increased amounts that we're seeing. The 50 lakh is, according to the BCCI, a huge improvement from what the players were getting earlier. But of course, when you compare it to the men's team, it's of course nothing. And when we talk about the men's team, it's very important to state here that when one talks about the women's team and the men's team, it's not parity, at least not for me. At least it's not parity that one's looking at, but a sort of a little bit of respect. Because the amount that you're giving right now, if you do the math, the entire women's cricket team together, all centrally contracted players will get rupees 5 crore a year. So, the entire women's team don't even make as much as what a Rohit Sharma makes in an entire season. So, that sort of is unfair when you talk about, and this is very important, at least for me. The BCCI has always maintained and is in fact legally a not-for-profit organization. So if, and we of course already know that the BCCI is, the richest cricket board in the world. There is a tremendous amounts of revenue coming in, from broadcast rights, from IPL rights, IPL sponsorship rights. There's the huge chunk of money you get from the ICC. There is so much money coming into the BCCI. So, why not pass it down to the players, who are actually playing the sport? I know that a Mithali Raj or a Harmanpreet Kaur will not be able to pack the amount of stands that a Virat Kohli will. But, at the end of the day, they are all Indian cricketers, and we must show them enough respect. Is 50 lakh really the best the BCCI can afford? That is the question to ask. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I'd say it's not. I think the BCCI can, of course, afford a lot more. And this time around, with Sourav Ganguly coming on board, a former player, one did think that, there would be change. And as actually we've seen in the last 2-3 months, there actually hasn't been much change. We've actually gone back to the BCCI of like 5-6 years back when it was quite Sarkari in its working. And yeah, you can play all your day-night tests, you can play all your ping pong tests, but until and unless the money that you're making out of all of that trickles down to the players, what's the use?
Want to hear the rest of this podcast? Check out the link to the full episode in the description below and follow The Quint on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, JioSaavn and all other platforms we are on.